Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. This is your weekly update. I'm going to continue to talk my way through the second module here. I'm also going to make some reference to the things in Module 3, just a little bit, because I'm going to go ahead and unlock that for you so you can start to plan ahead. I know that some of you work and you have kids and you have a lot going on, and so I want to give you the opportunity to be able to plan ahead. Let's just go ahead and jump straight in because, as usual, I don't want to waste your time. All right, in the second module, at this point, you're working your way through the compare and contrast assignments, and you're working your way toward the blending rhetorical modes essay. Again, this essay, when you click into it, you have your basic assignment description. Make sure you pay attention to the requirements there. This is very much like the first one. Make sure you pay attention to the rubric. I've given you an image of the rubric, and I've also given you the rubric down at the bottom. Those two things match each other. Also make sure that you pay attention to the note that's attached to the rubric. For every page that you're short, you will have a deduction of 25 points or some portion thereof if you're short. Make sure you go to the 3/4 mark on the page. That's very important. These are fairly short essays. If you were to go to UNC Charlotte, for example, they're going to have you write something like a 4 or 5 page essay at this level. So I do stress that you must meet that page requirement, and this is one of the reasons why. As a quick aside, I like to think of this kind of like a biology exam. If you went into a biology exam and you had, say, 50 questions and you only answered 25, there's no reason you should get credit for the other 25. If this is a 3-page essay and you only write a page and a half and you do everything perfect, there's no reason you should receive full credit for that essay because you only did half of the essay. So it's the same basic idea. Okay, with all of that in mind, again, pay attention to the 1-paragraph summary. This is what I talked about in the last video. Just in brief, very quickly, again, you're comparing and contrasting two things that you like, that you're a fan of, and that you're going to make a decision about one being better than the other. Now, this could be anything. It could be TV shows, like I told you, somebody did one on rope in the past. I spoke to somebody actually today, this morning, in my 8 a.m. session. I'm making this on a Monday, who wanted to do it on volleyball or on gluten-free, her gluten-free diet. Either of those would work. Either of those would work. So by all means, pick something that interests you. Just keep in mind, no research is required. I don't want you to do any research for this because you shouldn't have to do any research. This is something that you're a fan of. You don't need to go look things up. You don't need to know you're doing a television show, when the television show started. Ignore all of that. You're talking about characters. You're talking about plot. You're talking about all of these things. The reason that I'm asking you to do it that way is because I want you to concentrate on how you're writing it, not necessarily the content itself, right? I need you to concentrate on the form. Again, you're comparing and contrasting. I'm looking for AAA, BBB, AB, AB all the way throughout. And I'm looking for that one-to-one correspondence between the two. So if you're talking about, something like The Office, and you're talking about Jim Halpert, right? You're talking about Jim Halpert, and then suddenly you come over here to I don't know, The Witcher, and you're talking about Geralt, right? Or Geralt, however you say it. And you're comparing and contrasting those two things. That just doesn't work because these are not comparable characters at all. Now, if you want to talk about Jim Halpert and you want to talk about Chandler Bing from Friends, that's comparable because both of those characters have sort of similar personalities. They're sort of similar shows, and you can compare and contrast those two across the two shows. Okay, so I'm looking for that kind of thing. I'm looking to see that you've rationalized your way through it and that you're following the patterns. That's what I need to be able to say. Now, you might argue that Jim Halpert is funnier than Chandler Bing. That's what your essay is about. Okay, coming back over here, I want to make sure I point out as well to the resources for the essay. Make sure you follow the link to the sample essay right here. The sample essay does everything that I would look for in an essay of this sort. Gives a good introduction. It concentrates on one TV show, then it concentrates on the other TV show. It uses effective transitions in between each, and then it goes into an extended discussion of those TV shows. As you can see, this was enough information to generate a full 4-page paper. That should be fairly easy for you to do. The format, everything here matches exactly, again, what I'm looking for. Please look at this example essay. Please look at the rubric. Please look at all the resources I've provided you. Because, again, like I said in the last week, I want you to be successful, but, I can only give you the resources. I can't come to your house and make you look at them. So, keep that in mind. Okay, I'm going to do as well just a very brief thing that I did this morning. This is a sample of what you would get from the coming to the online sessions, the Zoom sessions. And maybe, it'll give you a sense of what that's about. what we covered is this slideshow that I use in my English 111 class. And again, I'm just going to kind of go through it fairly quickly. I don't want to repeat what's in the video inside the module, but we talked about why we compare and contrast, what it's used for. Purpose number one is probably the one you're going to use it for a college level essay. So you're going to concentrate on making a decision of some sort between two different possibilities. Yes, we're having you practice, something that you're a fan of, but the underlying patterns that you're practicing can be used for things like gun control. It can be used for topics like abortion. It can be used for trying to make a decision about macro versus microeconomics. It can be used for a variety of things. So that's why we want you to practice the pattern. It's not that we want you to write just about something that you're a fan of. We're trying to take out the really complicated stuff and get you to practice that form. And then the next essay starts to add more and more complicated things in. You can use it if you're going into the sciences or if you're going into a highly technical field in order to help your reader to understand something. I gave the analogy this morning of like I'm a really awful patient. I just body stuff like I don't understand the body at all. But if you were to tell me that I have basically like tubes in my body that carry blood away and then back to my heart, and that's kind of like a major city, and it has thoroughfares that run away from it, and then it has thoroughfares that come back to it, and that's exactly what my circulatory system is like. That starts to make some sense to me. Now I understand it. So I'm comparing and contrasting two things to help people to understand something better. For creative writing purposes, it could be, in order to illustrate a character. J.K. Rowling does this implicitly with some of her characters. Not even implicitly, sorry, explicitly, because what she does is, for example, Lupin turns into a wolf, and he's a very loyal person who's dedicated to his pack, and so forth and so on. Wormtail turns into a rat, and so he's, got that sniveling rat-like personality as well. So that can help. You can also use it to draw attention to a major problem. So, for example, climate change is a little bit like spreading cancer across the entire world. If it goes too far, we can't turn it back, and then we will all die. The planet will keep going, and it's probably going to end up looking like Venus. And Venus, by the way, is the second planet from the sun, but it's the hottest planet in the solar system, and it's hot enough to melt lead. And that's because it has a runaway greenhouse effect, much like our Earth. If we have a runaway greenhouse effect, our planet will be that hot too at some point. So, by drawing attention to that parallel, I get you to see this problem, climate change, in a new way. Right, and I can make that comparison. And by the way, then I could build an entire essay on that. It's man-made climate change. It's naturally occurring climate change. It doesn't matter. We can see that it's happening. Now we can talk about the reasons why. But if we can get our reader to understand that it's important by drawing this analogy out, that's a good step. Okay, I want to jump forward to methodology. This is all covered inside the module. I taught my way through it this morning. We got some examples and we kind of eased our way through it. I don't want to do all of that again right now because you can read it and you can watch the video inside the module. I will just draw attention to this one because it is the most difficult one. Be fair and balanced. That's the biggest piece of advice I can give for any essay in any class. Be fair and balanced. If you find that you cannot be fair and balanced, that you're just too emotionally invested in the topic to be objective about it, you need to pick a different topic. The example that we gave this morning is abortion. I've seen repeatedly papers through the years where people are just too emotionally involved in this topic. Yes, I understand why. I do understand why, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but I am saying that if you can't focus on the data and on using things like definitions to define what life is and then compare and contrast and then make a decision based on that, if you have to resort to something like name calling, if you have to resort to, that's something I don't like, you need to pick a different topic. You should not be writing about this thing. And so that comes into compare and contrast because, again, if you can't be fair and balanced, if you're comparing like the Christian faith with the Muslim faith, then, you have to be objective about both of them. That's actually the assignment I used to put into my English 111 classes because it's just really good practice. We shifted to a different direction, but I just want to go ahead and share that with you as well. All right, methodology. I'm going to skip past the screen in favor of just being succinct, but I do want to draw attention to, if we were going to compare and contrast these two things here, Hot Topic and American Eagle, this pattern out here in the middle is not a good pattern, right? So if we were to excerpt that, we have just the basic aesthetic of this is pretty bad. We like symmetry. We really like symmetry. There's a reason that we put on the wall If we were going to pick a piece of artwork, something like, the Mona Lisa or the Vitruvian Man, we put those pictures up because they have good symmetry between them, right? This is not symmetrical at all. And, if you're really into modern art, you might like something like that, but it's just not very symmetrical. So what instead we need to do is go back to our list, reorganize the list so that there's a one-to-one correspondence between both sides. And then now we have symmetry. By the way, that also includes if there's not something that matches on the other side, we need a kind of zero there. We need to put a placeholder there that says that there's nothing on this side that matches. So that symmetry breaks down to one side and then the other, A, B, B, or we bounce back and forth between the two, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, over and over and over, right? And I can label them A, B. I'm going to call this group A and this group B, A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3. These are the basic patterns that are in the module. I'm going to wrap up the video here. These are the basic patterns in the module, and this is what you're going to be graded on in the forthcoming essay. If you receive feedback from one of your peers that says that you're not meeting one of the basic patterns, this is what they're talking about. So make sure you go back and you look at the way that you've intellectually laid everything out. Now, the reason why this is important is because not everybody's going to be able to follow what you're saying. If you are a fan of a specific group, that group may have very specific terminology that the rest of the world is just not going to understand. And so by using that specific terminology and setting it into a pattern, that makes it a little bit easier for the reader to be able to follow those ideas if the reader doesn't understand that terminology. So by, again, putting it in the pattern, you set that expectation. You're not boring your reader. You're absolutely not boring your reader. You've created this expectation and the reader expects you to follow it all the way throughout. If you reverse it because you think, oh, I need it to be interesting, I'm going to change it up a little bit. No, that doesn't do anything for your reader. That actually just confuses your reader because now your reader has to stop and say, wait a minute, I was barely following this in the first place. Now they've done something weird. So let me go back and review everything. Don't do that, right? Just set your pattern, follow your pattern. Good writing, really good writing is invisible. It's hiding in the background the entire time, and your reader should be able to follow that writing without having to pause and account for what you as the writer are doing. Okay, that's a lot of information, but I want to make sure that you have it, and I'm trying to help as much as possible. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll send another update next week. See you.